Gilbert Ramirez versus Joe Smith Jr., 12 rounds at a catch weight of 193 pounds, I believe. And this is an interesting matchup, and I think a crossroad type of fight for both men, I believe. We haven't heard too much about either man since their last fight. They're both coming off of a loss. So this is going to be a very interesting matchup. Let's get into it. Let's start with Gilberto Ramirez. 44 wins, 1 loss, 30 wins by way of knockout. This is his first fight of the year. We last saw him almost a year ago. His last fight was at 175 pounds with this catch weight of almost 200 pounds. It kind of makes me think that we might not see him campaign at 175 no more. He's not going to be a light heavyweight no more. He's probably going to move up to that cruiserweight division. This is probably that introduction and him working his way into that division. He's a pretty big guy, and I think from the last fight, I thought he was supposed to fight Gabriel Rosario, and he didn't make weight, and there was a lot of stuff going on with that. So, maybe it is time for him to move up. Now, I remember Oscar De La Hoya saying that Gilberto Ramirez is one of the most feared boxers in the sport today. Oscar is a promoter now, right? So he's supposed to say those things, but I just needed to see more from Gilberto from a competition standpoint for someone to just say that, right? His record is great, right? 44 wins is a whole lot of wins, but from a competition standpoint, there were still some questions that I had of Gilberto for me personally. So there's no denying he's talented. He's a come forward type of guy who likes to get in close, pushes opponents back on the back foot, tries and pushes them on the ropes before letting his hands go. And when he does let his hands go, man, the shot array of skills that he does possess, you can see it, right? He goes to the body, he goes to the head, he got uppercuts. He's got a whole bunch of shots that he can hurt you with, and he wears you down. He wears down his opponents. He's done it on many occasions before. I liked his performances both time when he fought Jesse Hart, but especially the second one because he had to work and earn that win. I believe he hurt his hand or something like that. I remember reading after, and he had to push through that pain, right? He had to find a way to come out with the win. When your back is against the wall, who are you? Who are you going to be? And that toughness level that you need and want a fighter to have, we kind of got to see that Gilberto Ramirez when he fought Jesse Hart. Now, going into his last fight, when he fought Dimitri Bivol, he had been on a 5-fight win streak, knocking all those cats out. So, he was feeling good. The confidence is always high. All the momentum was swinging in his favor going into the fight. You never want to go into the fight coming off a loss. You want everything to kind of be aligning up. And it felt like it was for Gilberto Ramirez, but I thought it was going to be, I expected Bivol to win the fight, but I did not expect him to win as comfortable as he did. Bivol was catching Gilberto with combinations, pushing him back. Ramirez tried to come forward and get his offense going, but every time that he would try something, Bivol would fire off combinations and get out of range. The speed, the quickness, the IQ, the adjustments, the discipline of Bivol, the whole package of Bivol was just too much for Gilberto, right? I was expecting Gilberto Ramirez to come in and impose his will and his size on Bivol, right? But he was never able to get going. And I credit that to Bivol, his style of fighting, the way how he moves and he operates, and how he is such a mastermind at controlling the range and the distance of his opponents. Ramirez had moments in that fight, though, right? Moments when he would land a counter punch, or moments when he had Bivol on the ropes. But when he had Bivol on the ropes, he didn't take advantage of that. And when he did let his hands go, it just seemed like those shots didn't have that type of steam and pop that it usually does. And he looked tired going into the 8th round and beyond that. It also looked like as the fight was going on, man, like his confidence just seemed to drop. Kind of seemed like his confidence was a little bit shot because he was fighting hesitantly as the fight went on, and Bivol just completely took him out of his fight in every single category. So it's going to be interesting to see how Gilberto responds from his first loss. Going to be interesting to see what version of Gilberto that we are going to get. Going to be interesting on many forefronts, right? Because Joe Smith is a guy who may not have the skill like Gilberto, may not have the combinations and the beautiful display of punching and the variety of punches, but this is a guy who may not be as skilled, But man, he may be more determined and he may have more heart and will, and that makes up for the skill. So this is going to be a very interesting matchup. Let's talk about his opponent, Joe Smith Jr. 28 wins, 4 losses, 22 wins by way of knockout. What's not to like about Joe Smith Jr., man? He comes into every fight and gives his all, puts everything into the ring. He's not the flashiest guy. His boxing skill isn't necessarily going to wow you with excitement, right? Like, he's someone who throughout his career, he's had to work his way up. He's had to fight for everything that he's had, and everything that he has earned, the place where he is right now in the rankings, in the matchups, he's had to fight his way to the top. And that is something that you cannot deny about Joe Smith Jr. That is an admirable thing. He's an admirable guy. That is a mindset that you have to have. He's never going to quit. He's going to get back up each time and keep fighting as long as he is in the fight. Now, from a boxing standpoint, Smith has improved over his time, right? He's gotten better over the years. He's been improving in different areas, movement in the ring, his footwork, setting up his attacks, shot placement, and his strength. And his strength is that right hand, whether he's looping it through, bringing it over, hooking it, that right hand, you cannot play with that right hand. That right hand can and will do damage if it lands and lands consistently. He will chop you down. I remember when he fought Bernard Hopkins, when he knocked Hopkins clean out of the ring, caught him on the ropes and just unloaded on him. But at the same time, in that same fight, man, B-Hop was boxing very well, right? He wasn't in his prime anymore. Of course, I think he was like, 51 years old, but he could still do some good things in the ring, man. He was working the jab, slipping and moving and putting shots and combinations together as best as he could for where he was at the time in his career. And he was having some success. And honestly, I mean, B-Hop is in great shape, and B-Hop could probably, outbox some of these cats today for a few rounds. Not going to say he's going to win, but for 1 or 2 rounds, he could probably mix it up with some of these young cats today before his age starts to show. Then after that, Joe Smith gets the win. Then he goes after that. Then he fought Solomon Barrera in an exciting fight, and a fight where it had excitement from the jump, right? Smith comes out, him and Barrera at the center of the ring. Both men exchange. Barrera missed. Smith lands with a hook that drops Barrera. And it looked like Smith was going to get it done. He was going to close out the show. He had Barrera right where he wanted him. But the thing with Barrera, man, he's a veteran, right? And he's been in moments like that where he has been dropping, came back and got the win. So this wasn't exactly new territory for Barrera. He just kept composed, kept fighting his fight, mixing up boxing on the outside and brawling when he need to, bringing that calculated pressure and finding ways how to land his shots, slipping through Smith's guard in this defense. And when it was all said and done, Barrera came away with the win. But I thought Smith let that one go a little bit, but he showed he did have power to hurt his opponents at that top level. A few fights later, he fights Dimitri Bivol in a fight where he just got completely outboxed. It just seemed like Bivol was on a different level that fight. After that, he beats Jesse Hart and Maxim Volosev in a great fight for Smith where honestly, he willed himself to victory. I remember watching that fight, and that fight just impressed. I was impressed by Joe Smith's heart, will, and just the determination of him, the character of him, because some of those rounds, he looked hurt. Volosev looked like he was landing some nice shots, and he was the one imposing his will. There were moments where he looked hurt. Then he would come back and land that right hand and steal the momentum. He had to dig deep, dig down to win that fight. And all fight, he just kept punching, kept pushing, kept punching, kept believing, kept fighting, and willed himself to win that fight. A fight of the year candidate, right? But one of my favorite showings from Joe Smith Jr., because I think it shows who he is as a person. In his last fight, he fought Artur Beterbiev. Not only was he defending his title, but he had an opportunity to take Artur Beterbiev's title as well. Now, a lot of people were saying Smith shouldn't have came into the ring with that type of game plan, that aggression. But honestly, I didn't mind it. I thought he was taking a risk, as you need to when you're fighting Beterbiev. And if that was the game plan, he had to take that risk to see if he could come out and just overwhelm Artur Beterbiev, catch him off guard. Maybe you're the one that takes the fight to him and land that right hand. You land your right hand, Artur Beterbiev has been dropped before, right? So I didn't mind the game plan of what Smith was trying to do. It just did not work on the night. And once Artur Beterbiev saw what was going on and his shots started to connect, we know what Beterbiev is about. We know the man hits hard. You know, he's heavy-handed, but he's also skilled. He's much more skilled than he looks, a lot more tactical than people will give him credit for, man. The man is a complete fighter. And once he connected on the first shot, it was just downhill after that. And I'm glad that the ref stopped the fight when it did, because it was getting ugly, but he was going to get much more uglier real fast. But at the same time, you got to give credit to Smith for getting back up when he was down and tried to come and win the fight. So again, man, this is a crossroad fight, a lot at stake for both men, and it's going to be interesting. So who wins? Personally, I think Gilberto Ramirez has more ways to win the fight than Joe Smith does. Gilberto, while I wouldn't say is an exceptional technical boxer, he can box on the outside a little bit if he needs to, but he does like to mix it up and come forward, and that is what Joe Smith likes to do. That's going to be his best way to win this fight. That's going to be the best way for him to win this fight. He's going to have to take Gilberto out of his comfort zone and make this a Joe Smith type of fight. Force Gilberto to show how tough he is, right? Whose will is stronger. Test that chin, test that body often, mix his attacks and bring that calculated pressure and punch in combinations, and don't give him too much time to think. Don't give him too much time to set up and get comfortable. On the other side, Gilberto needs to be wary of that right hand. If he can neutralize Joe Smith's right hand, he'll be able to position him where he can have success. He needs to impose his size and box and brawl and stay patient and wait for the right openings to come. The other thing, though, that I want to add about Joe Smith, man, is he's fighting for something bigger than himself right now, I think. I don't know that to be true, but I believe that he is. He lost his brother fatally got shot, and he didn't make it. And that stuff messes with you. As someone who's lost people in my life that were close to me, it's tough to deal with, right? And it's a switch that you have to flip. And in the same sense, it can work for you because it gives you that extra motivation, that extra purpose, and something to dig deep and to find and bring out in the fight, man. The mentality of loss can work with you. We've seen it before in the boxing ring. Remember what Buster Douglas did to Mike Tyson, right? So we've seen it done before. So we're going to see what Joe Smith can do, what type of mentality that he is in. It's still a tough one for me to pick personally. My heart says Joe Smith will pull it off, but my mind says Gilberto just has more ways to win the fight. I lean Gilberto Ramirez to win this fight by decision, but at the same time, you know, I kind of hope that Smith can pull it off. But I think Gilberto Ramirez is going to do enough to get the job done in this fight. What are your thoughts on this fight? Who do you have winning this one? Let me know in the comment section below. If you're enjoying the content, enjoying the videos, then I hope that you consider becoming a member. One of the best ways to support the channel. I don't always get to do all the suggested videos you guys suggest in the comment section below, but if you become a member, those suggested videos rise to the top, and I will do my best to get those done for you. Or if you'd like to support by way of donation, you can find my Cash App handle on screen, PayPal in the comment section as well. Shout out to everybody that continues to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, man. I appreciate each of you. Always love, always love. So with all that being said, if you've been watching the video this long, do me a favor and subscribe to the channel, and we'll definitely see you next time.